Hey, I'm Maddie. I'm the marketing manager for Workbar, and this is Setting the Bar.
Woohoo! I am Maddie's colleague, Sarah Travers. I am the CEO of Workbar.
Well, we're very excited to start this podcast and for people to learn more about Workbar. Can you tell us a little bit about Workbar?
I can. Workbar is the strongest co-working brand in Boston. Workbar has been around since 2009. We are the original co-working brand here in Boston. The company was founded by three gentlemen in the real estate world. Two of the co-founders are landlords. One of them was an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur, who was subleasing office space from the two landlords. The company the entrepreneur was subleasing from ended up going out of business overnight.
Ooh.
And so technically this entrepreneur was kicked out of his space. And the other people that were subleasing the space were also kicked out of the space sort of overnight. He went to the two landlords, and together the three of them decided to offer sort of hot desking seats on a flexible monthly basis to the entrepreneur and the other people working in the space. And that actually turned into Workbar. And eventually over the years, he moved into a different space in Boston once sort of like-minded individuals, entrepreneurs, startup companies, a lot of people from the gig economy back then joined him in this space. They ended up designing a real co-working space. The elements of that design still exist today. We've just sort of optimized it over the past decade to sort of where we've landed today. And then since then, Workbar has grown. We now have 12 locations in Greater Boston. And
Worcester opening this summer.
Worcester's opening in the summer of 2024. And we've pioneered the sort of hub and spoke co-working model that exists today, where we've taken the popular model of saturating urban markets, we've flattened it down, and we've sort of spread it across an entire region, really because our members said to us, we love what you've created, we love this sort of productive, dynamic environment, workplace in downtown Boston, but why can't we have this closer to where we live out in the suburban market? So it was kind of an aha moment, and we started opening locations in 2015, started opening up locations out in the suburban market. And now we are bigger out in the suburbs than we are in the city, but we still have the, a Back Bay location, a downtown Boston location, and a Cambridge location as sort of the hub to the rest of the spokes out in the suburban market.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love most about Workbar is the suburban model. Like I live 2 minutes from the Needham location, and it's so nice not to be forced to commute into the office every day.
You know, I've worked in this industry for over 20 years at this point. When I became a CEO back in 2017, I had a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I never would have been able to be successful in what I was doing if I had to commute into Boston every single day of the week. And so it's really taken on a mission above and beyond leading what I think is a really good company with a really good group of people to really providing a productive, inclusive place that people can work that is certainly not your home, but closer to your home. Because I really do believe that you need a separation between home and work.
It has for sure made me so much more, dynamic at work, not working from home, getting out, meeting people. I mean, we talk a lot about the bump and connect, which we can obviously get more into, but that really is such a huge part of being in our spaces is like getting inspiration, not just from our colleagues, but from the other members. But I'm curious, what do you think is the reason that I like to come downtown?
So Maddie picks her locations based on when she wakes up, what she feels like for lunch that day.
She's right.
That is how Maddie picks what
that is
she
correct.
goes to. And there's no judgment here. Do I encourage meetings to happen where I want to eat that day? Yes, I do.
Interesting, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I know you were out at Workbar Burlington yesterday, which has so many good options.
So many good options.
And there's a Clover.
There is?
There is. Over across on Law Road. There's a Clover.
Wait. I did not know
Yeah,
that.
it's next to the Starbucks.
Kara
Marlboro.
purposely didn't tell me that.
Yeah,
But
sorry
anyway,
about
back
that,
to Workbar. That is the reason that I choose my locations. But like
Yes.
other stuff too. Like if there are
Right.
meetings, events.
Yes, yes. And we like to spread the love to all of our locations.
For sure. We have so many great
Yeah.
colleagues that are the community managers at all these locations.
Right.
And it's nice to kind of check in, see how
And I
they're
think
doing.
That brings
get
up a
the
good
gossip.
point, too, that Workbar does not have an HQ. We co-work with all of our members.
Yeah.
We walk the walk. We live the life. The great thing about Workbar, which is what I've really always had in the back of my mind, is I came from a company, IWG, which is the largest provider of flexible workspaces in the world. They're a $1 billion,
Wow.
publicly traded company. So I came from that world of corporate where you have processes, you have, all
Right.
of that really in black and white. And I came to Workbar where we still have a startup vibe. People
Yeah.
still think we're a startup company, even though we are a, for-profit, revenue-producing company that has been able to really marry sort of the corporate world of processes and efficiency with the ability to stay entrepreneurial and nimble and pivot quickly
Yeah.
and make decisions based on how Workbar uses the space and how our members use the space. We sit next to them all day. So I think that's been an important part that we've been able to keep true to the roots of the company for over a decade at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I say it all the time. It makes my job so much easier because when I'm writing content or telling people, you really should join Workbar, it's amazing. I'm speaking from real experience.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
And one of, another sort of goal of Workbars over the past few years has to become an employer of choice, where when Maddie comes to work and Maddie wakes up in the morning, I want you to feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
I want you to feel like you believe in our mission, you believe
do.
in what we're out in the world doing. And you're a mom, you have two young kids.
I do,
and it's
yeah.
it's important that you feel like you have a work environment that supports you as a whole person.
Sarah, can you tell us how Workbar got its name?
Yeah, so that's also another sort of interesting story that's super relevant to where Workbar is today. But Workbar blends, obviously, work, professional work, bar, social. So it's really about blending your professional and personal life. And when you come into a work bar, we want you to get so much more out of your day than just heads down productive work. Right. It's an environment that is built based on community. There's obviously no way to measure community. I always say that my measurement of community is that when I see two people join Workbar who did not know each other before they came into our space, and they end up sort of hanging out and becoming friends outside of Workbar.
Yeah, I love
that. To
that.
me, that is a great aspect of our space, and a lot of that's driven by our community manager, but it's also driven by the physical layout of our space. It's all very purposely designed around members coming into our space and being able to get more out of their day than just 9 to 5 work.
And sometimes we do have little happy hours. Turn
We do.
ourselves into a little bar.
Right. We do have happy
So-
hours. We have a lot of really fun events, and all of the events, they're great. When I go into our space, we have this brand element that we call the member board.
Oh, yeah.
And it's sort of a physical manifestation of our technology platform into the space. So you can kind of see the people that are in the space, but the best part about it is all the events that are
Yeah.
listed. And the events that show up are from all of our locations. So you're like, pancake breakfast and
Yeah,
meet 'em on Wednesday?
guess that's where
I'll
I'm
hit that up.
going.
But
Yeah.
we do the trivia nights, the speaker series, we used to do hackathons. We did speed networking out in Woburn a couple weeks ago and had, 120 people out
Yeah,
there that
it was
they were all
packed.
it
Loving
was
it.
awesome. The vibe was great. And so we really encourage all of our members to take a look at that member board and see which events. And
Yeah.
you can be like Maddie and I, you can pick your location based on lunch, or sometimes we pick it based on the events that are happening at the
because
locations.
snacks are good too. Can you talk about how Workbar defines co-working and how it's a little bit different than people's general understanding of what co-working is?
When you come into Workbar, you're not in isolation. You have access to an entrepreneurial spirit. You have access to a network of people, of diverse people, of people who don't work from the same company, who don't work in the same department, who just have different backgrounds. You have access to local demand. You have access to global demand. I think all of that is really important as you think about a space where innovation can thrive and where, as you brought up earlier in the podcast, sort of the bump and connect, where individuals can bump and connect with one another. A Workbar member can work from Boston, they can work from Needham, they can work from Framingham, Burlington, at any Workbar location they want to. We also, the physical layout of our space is very unique. 50% of our space is open co-working space, and it is divided into activity-based neighborhoods. And one of the sort of the biggest differentiators I personally feel in a Workbar is I can take phone calls and I don't get dirty looks. I can go into our study that is very similar to working out of the Boston Public Library and put, I don't even need to put my headphones on, I do, but people know when I'm in there, they can't come sort of tap on my shoulder and interrupt what I'm doing. We have a cafe neighborhood that's like working out of a Starbucks where there's light music playing, sort of that water cooler talk is encouraged. And our community managers, they are making connections and facilitating all the goodness that really can come from co-working. And I think that we have members who love being social. As humans, we're social, we crave human interaction, right? But at the same time, there's a place for the introverts out in the world who just want to go in, put their heads on, get work done, but have that separation of leaving their house, which is a non-work environment. No matter what we say, someone's house is a non-work environment, and going into a work environment. And you have that separation. Where Workbar comes in is, we want you to really have your best day at work, right? And we want to you can get so much more out of a 9-to-5 workday than just sitting down and doing work, but that's productive. And, I think what we've seen and what a lot of studies have come out and said after the pandemic is loneliness hinders productivity. For sure. So if you are sitting home alone all day in and day out, you are becoming lonely, you're becoming isolated. Innovation isn't sort of sparked in a vacuum like that, but it's more than innovation, right? We don't expect everybody at Workbar to innovate and, and come up with the microwave or, the first heart transplant. But we want them to come in and not be lonely. We want them to interact with other humans. And I really think that that's part of Workbar's mission as well, is solving for this loneliness epidemic.
Are there any specific things you want to highlight in this first episode?
Yeah, I feel like Workbar has survived a whole lifetime that the rest of the world was not maybe using co-working spaces. Maybe the rest of the world was utilizing, they didn't know that this solution existed out there. I think there's certainly an entire new audience and market that's out there interested in co-working spaces. There's a really big differentiator between like a flexible solution, which a landlord can provide, right? Or a co-working solution, which is hospitality focused, experience driven, and there's just so much more life in it than you would get from a typical built environment in a building anywhere in the world. Workbar was also the first co-working space in the entire world to achieve WELL certification back in 2017. And I typically say that we certainly could not have predicted that we would have ever received sort of a return on that investment, because the majority of elements that are good for you are invisible, and you don't notice them, and we don't want you to notice them. So Workbar Back Bay, which holds sort of that achievement as being the first co-working space in the world to achieve WELL certification, we knew that people in our spaces would be impacted by the built environment. So the air is refreshed more frequently. There's a monitor that tests the level of oxygen in the space. The lighting mirrors your circadian rhythm, so you don't feel like you're in a Las Vegas casino. Maddie, what is your favorite amenity at Workbar?
My favorite amenity, this is a layup. My favorite amenity at Workbar is the bevy machine. It is our fresh filtered water machine that offers still and sparkling,
Yeah.
multiple flavors. There's even caffeinated water, which scares me a little bit.
I've never done that.
I don't do the caffeinated water.
I have enough caffeine.
Yeah, exactly. Like coffee
like,
everywhere.
hello.
And then there are also like vitamin boosters.
Oh,
It's
I've seen that.
amazing.
Yeah, the electrolyte waters.
And everyone knows I'm addicted to it. I also have like a big crush on the girl who does their social media. We just have like an online
side hustle.
in my mind, I do. It's like my true side hustle dream.
It is.
They're a great company, and their product is amazing, and it hydrates Workbar all day long.
But all of that is really thoughtful and purpose-driven. And again, it's not something on a sales tour that you would ever notice, but you do notice it when you work in the space.
You do, for sure.
Right?
I do. Yeah, I love going to Back Bay. I think the little things that I notice are when the lighting changes a little bit and you're like, it like gets you what you didn't know you needed.
Yes.
Either it gets turned down or turned back up, or the color
Yeah.
changes a little bit and you're like, oh,
Right.
well, let's do this. So it really is great. And then, yeah, the bevy.
Yeah, and the bevy's awesome. And I think that as we always think about, we're solving obviously for the workforce today, but where my passion really lies is creating a inclusive, diverse workplace for the workforce of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the generations rising into the workplace. And I think that even as I think about sort of Workbar being ahead of the curve on all of this, I still think, if I could build the perfect work bar of the future, it would have no walls.
Right. Yeah. I think the idea of having no walls is really interesting because, like, the little bit of introvert inside me is like, no, I want to, like, be able to close the door and, like, not kind of be out in it. But that really is where I get my best work done.
Right.
So it's interesting that is kind of where your ideal is.
It's
Workbar
ideal also
2026.
for me. Yeah, it's like, because you just do, you feed off the energy of the space that you're in.
You do.
And I just, I feel really strongly that we can't support a group of employees who just work from home all the time. Even if you say it's the best solution for you, it's the best solution for a very small percentage of people, right?
Right.
Not most people do not have a ideal work setup at home. And my kids know this about me, but if I go into like a Starbucks or a Tate or a coffee shop and I see people meeting there with laptops, it like sends a shiver up my spine.
I get that.
Because I'm like, why are you working at Starbucks?
Yeah.
Why?
I know. I do
that?
wonder about that a lot. I always want to like slide them my card
Right.
sneakily to be like, we have a better way. But I think
And a less
people just don't
expensive
know.
way than coffee.
Yeah, for sure. Our coffee is free.
Our coffee is free.
Just
Come work
another
here.
great amenity.
Yeah. But I do
yeah.
think there are really smart leaders out there who have figured out how to optimize hybrid work and not a hybrid work solution that doesn't include work from home.
For sure. I think hopefully we'll have a chance to talk to some of them on this podcast.
Absolutely.
Hear how they got their companies there so we can encourage other companies to do the same.
Yeah.
Come to
what
Workbar,
I think
baby.
what's going to be cool is that like we're focused solely on the Boston.
Yeah. Best city on earth.
Right. The best city on earth.
We're not even biased. It just
Right.
is.
It just is.
Yeah.
And so if we can support other companies in Boston to have a more productive, healthy workforce,
Yeah.
then like let's do it.
Let's do it.
Blow it
To
up.
the moon, baby.
Yeah, to the moon.
I love it.
To the
I
moon.
love it.
We should have named it To the Moon, the podcast.
Oh, missed opportunity. Missed
Yeah.
opportunity.
But setting
That'll
the bar
be
is
season
pretty
2.
good. Season
Setting
2.
the bar to the moon. Setting the bar on the moon.
The path to the moon.
Path to the moon. Oh, one
Now
day.
that the public has seen a little insight into how you and I sit in an office.
It's going to go
and work.
south.
Yeah, it's going to go
fast.
south.
Yeah.
It's going to go south.
We'll try to keep the wheels on
Yeah.
for most of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm excited. I mean, I know we have a slate of guests that are going to be so interesting to talk to, have a lot to share about the world of work, not just in Boston, but nationally and internationally. It'll be really cool to kind of pick their brains and for them to pick yours a little too. There's
Yeah.
a lot in there, Sarah
There's
Travers.
something, it's,
you know,
there's a little something in there.
that's why they pay you the big bucks, I like to say. You know.
No, there's a little something in there that I'm passionate about Boston specifically and encouraging the Boston leaders out there, heads of companies, HR managers who are trying to figure it out when you have such a diverse group of individuals and generations, by the way. Can you imagine being in that position to have to come up with a solution that works for the 5 different generations that are in the workforce today? It's mind-boggling.
It really is. It's crazy to think about.
It's crazy to think about it. And I think that, one of the things that I hope comes from the podcast, but also, being out there and encouraging people to at least try Workbar as a solution is that companies kind of think about it and really try to figure out a way to optimize the way they're working today.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's important for the health and wellness of all of our fellow Bostonians.
I agree.
Yeah.
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
We're going to be so healthy this year.
We are.
It's a big year for health and wellness.
Is the year.
Yeah, it's the year.